probably won't be suiting up until the season starts. According to Gurley, this doesn't bother him at all.
That is everyone's dream, is not to play in the preseason. What are you talking about? No, man, I mean, you know, some guys is different. I mean, obviously, you know, at the end of the day, it's always going to be different between playing in the preseason and playing in the regular season. But, I mean, I'm kind of happy not to be playing in it, but, you know, it's definitely good for some guys as well, too. Some guys just like being out there to, you know, just to get a feel for it and to see, so, but not this guy.
All right, Kenny, how big of a deal is it to miss preseason when you're already an established guy?
I don't think it's a big deal, and we saw that last year with Le'Veon Bell. He missed the majority of all of the preseason, and he came back for the first week of the regular season. Now, it took him a while to get going, 2 or 3 games, before we saw the Le'Veon Bell that we're used to. But over the span of the entire season, Le'Veon Bell finished second in total yards from scrimmage, only to Todd Gurley. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue for Todd. And when you look at what the Rams just did, investing all that money in him in a long-term contract, they want to make sure that they keep some hips off him because they need to keep him around as long as possible so they can have their backfield intact while they try to make a run at it, competing for a championship.
And when you said L. Bell got off to a slow start, that's accurate, but it's also true that his preseason was different than what Gurley's doing because he wasn't at training camp either. So at least Gurley's going through the practices, going through the meetings, all of that. So I don't think you have as much worry with him. I think Jared Goff not playing is odd. And, like, he's not, to me, he's not, Todd Gurley's an established star in this league, right? Like, I don't think Jared Goff is that yet. Like, Jared Goff's played 2 years. His first season was really bad for anybody, but he's a rookie. His second season was pretty good with a lot of great pieces around him, including the best running back in the league last year, Todd Gurley. Like, the having Jared Goff on, though, maybe he doesn't need the preseason game plan. That one is surprising to me, much more so than Gurley.
We've been debating this for years. Should guys play in the preseason? How many games should they play? How many should the team play? Should the league overrule and take the preseason games totally out of it? Football is a game that you get better at by playing. And Todd Gurley, it's not every football player's dream that they would miss all the training camp and all the preseason. He's just talking from himself. From a running back standpoint, I would say that is the position that is the least important as far as playing in the preseason because the overall skill set, the ability to build a running football, and being able to replace that top level of productivity. If that guy gets hurt, it's going to go down. Besides the quarterback, they're very, very vital to an offense and to a team. But you can't play football without training camp. You mentioned L. Bell. We're not talking, Todd Gurley's not missing training camp. He's just not playing in the games. There's a difference. Todd Gurley will be ready for the regular season compared to the way L. Bell was last year where he had that slow start. For me, I prefer to be able to play in a couple preseason games because I like to play football when I'm tired. And unless I'm getting joint practices, which I like to have 2 of those, training camp's a lot shorter. So as my team, I like to have 2 joint practices with 2 different organizations within that 6-week period of time. And then I wouldn't have to play in the preseason game because I know the level of competition on those days, Chris, would be jacked up close to like game speed. But
yeah, and it's still a controlled environment, too, because it's practice. You're not taking anybody to the ground.
So if I had a couple of those, I wouldn't be as concerned as some of the skilled guys, running backs and quarterbacks playing. Whatever the organization decides to do with Jared Goff, as long as they just stay in unison as far as moving forward, I can only support them as long as they just stay consistent. Like if he's not going to play for some type of reason, they don't have to share that with me. But as long as him, the coach, and the organization are on the same page, Nick.
How much harder, let me ask you from a receiver perspective real quick, does Brandon Cooks making an instant impact become without having game action with Jared Goff? Because he's the big free agent or the big trade acquisition, big receiver. Goff last year, if he struggled with anything, it was on the deep ball, which is one of the things Cooks excels at, among other things. As a receiver, if you had a new quarterback or you were new to a quarterback, would it put you in a rough spot having your first game ever played with him be week 1 of the regular season?
From passing and throwing the football, you can simulate game speed in practice. because the wide receivers and DBs pretty much go 100% at each other. They're just going to say, we're just not going to go to the ground. So it's a lot easier to simulate that physical because it's not going to be as taxing as the big guys. Down in the trenches, they can only go so many reps at being live. So they have, through OTAs, mini camps, and all of training camp, they have thousands of reps together. So it's not as big as a jump them playing in week number 1 for the first time.
Is there a component to what this does in the locker room when you have a veteran or even a guy that's not a veteran, like a guy like Jared Goff, when he doesn't play through the preseason? Is there anything to that?
I don't think so, because Sean McVay has earned the trust of his players, and you see the jump that Jared Goff made from year 1 to year 2. So I think all of the players in the locker room can get on board with whatever plan they devise for Jared Goff and Todd Gurley. And CC, to echo one of the points that you just made about simulating game speed in practice, you got to keep in mind, Nick, that there's a big difference between preseason game speed and regular season game speed. Regular season game speed is a whole different level than what you're doing in practice or in a preseason game. So I don't know if it's a big deal missing preseason games and Jared Goff not participating in that.
When you have game experience.
When you have game experience. I think the big thing for Jared Goff is just making sure that he and Sean McVay are on the same page in terms of what they want to do, and making sure that the practice tempo is something where they can get their work done.
And we must realize, too, from a defensive standpoint, a lot of their veteran players, they have not played them also. Their cornerbacks, they have been spotting guys when they're going to bring them back. So as an organization, the question you asked is a very good question. It's up to the coach to set the tone. He lets the team know what we're going to do. Instead of having groups whisper and you start getting these little clicks and everything, Sean McVay get in front of the team and be like, listen, Gurley's not playing, Talib's not playing, Goff's not playing, Marcus Peters is not playing, and then everyone knows how we're going to do this moving forward. Even though we're on the same team, there's a different set of rules for each individual.
And that's where McVay's critical. Because if you don't have, if the players don't respect the coach, that can go sideways quick.
Yes.
So hold up. Wait, let me just make this clear. Not only does Todd Gurley play by different rules when it comes to contracts, he got 2 years left and got a brand new deal. He also don't have to do preseason games. He maybe, again, keep in mind if the players and the coach are sideways on this. They see that interview. They're like, you're right, it is everybody's dream not to play in these damn games, but we got to. You don't. You're the richest one of all of us.
And I know there's a guy like Ndamukong Suh. You have to make sure that message goes to him the right way.
Yes, sir.
He's an established veteran, right?
He's an established veteran, but he's on a 1-year contract, and Ndamukong Suh knows if you win at the highest level, everybody get paid. A high tide raises all boats, and when you recognize Todd Gurley's impact on that team's success, then as a veteran guy, you can go along with Sean McVay and whatever plan that he devises for preseason playtime.
No doubt. And a number of years in the league.